You hear the bass. It means it's another edition of the Scott Hamilton Show. Hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day. Fantastic weekend for sports. Of course, you had college hoops, men's and women, playing at a high level. You had the Daytona 500. You had some great professional golf at Pebble Beach. Spring training cranking up in parts of Florida and Arizona and so forth. It's that time of year, man. Everything's getting going. A lot happening. But college basketball right now, we're getting to where now we're starting to really look at not only how conference tournaments are going to shake out with regards to seeding and standing, but the NCAA tournament. Bracketology is a seemingly never-ending thing anyhow. But let's go ahead and get to the headlines. And really interesting development in the latest top 25. Michigan, your new number one in the AP top 25, ending Arizona's 9-week stint. Nine straight weeks as the number one team in the country, and then it loses twice in 1 week in the middle of February. That says everything we need to know about basketball 2025, 2026. Just so much parity. Everything front-loaded. Guys that can play, finding places to play, finding opportunities, coaches who like to assemble a la carte to build winning teams, doing that. It's just a really cool time for college basketball, no matter the problems otherwise plaguing college sports in general. We've got James Fletcher III of On3. He's going to come aboard in a few minutes. We're going to get his take on the latest AP Top 25. Get his assessment of the sport, the health of the sport. 6 Big Ten teams in the rankings. 5 from the Big 12, including 2 of the top 4. I think that says a lot about, speaking of top-heavy, a top-heavy conference in the Big 12. 4 from the ACC, 4 from the SEC. Florida at number 12, the highest-ranked SEC team. Wow, how different than last year when the rankings were just peppered with teams from the Southeastern Conference and 14 teams going to the NCAA tournament. Still think it's an absolutely fantastic league, but not the historical league that we saw last year. We'll ask James Fletcher III of On3 when he joins us in just a moment. Some off-the-court news, and this is really interesting. It happened on Sunday at Kansas State. Kansas State has fired men's basketball coach Jerome Tang over harsh criticism of his team. They're saying you can't do that. And quite candidly, he lit into his team pretty good. It happened after a loss to Cincinnati on Wednesday, 91-62. And he lit into his squad. He did not hold back. Let's play that clip, actually. I think it's worth playing. He went scorched earth. He went scorched earth on his squad. Let's go ahead and crank that up now. And you can hear what got him fired. And then we're going to get into the details of this because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense from an institutional standpoint.
Blessed to do this, but this was embarrassing. These dudes do not deserve to wear this uniform. There will be very few of them in it next year. I'm embarrassed for the university. I'm embarrassed for our fans, our student section. You know, it is just ridiculous. We got practice at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we will get this thing right. I have no answer, no words. So y'all got 2 questions. So whoever want to ask 2 questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability right now. But right now, like I'm like pissed, and this is all right. Questions.
I guess it's just kind of cousin. If you look at your road and home splits, basketball road games have been down the wire, and you run off the court. Just kind of explain that.
Yeah, I don't know. I asked the staff this week that same question, and they said that more the opponents. You play. I don't know, because I followed Minnesota last year closely, and they played great on the road and struggled at home. So then they started staying in hotels at home, like treating it like a road game. And so I even talked about, hey, do we need to change that change? But no, none of that crap matter, man. These dudes got to have some. They got some pride, man. They got some pride. It means something to wear a K-State uniform. It means something to put on this purple, man. Our everything this university is about and all that it's been about. Why I love this place, man. Like they don't love this place, so they don't deserve to be here.
Just one more for Coach. Just what did you make of the student section with paper bags on their heads?
Yeah, I'd wear a paper bag too if I was them. Thanks a lot, fellas. God bless.
Wow. Wow. You talk about just not holding back. He didn't hold back whatsoever. But here's my thing though. Here's what I have a problem with. What did he say that was actually so bad? Now we're looking at it there now. He's got an $18.6 million buyout. They're going to fire him for cause. They're not wanting to pay him that for those comments. What did he say that was so bad? They waited until after they lost to Houston, at Houston 78-64 on Saturday. And here's what athletic director Gene Taylor said. And I'm quoting. There's language in his contract that addresses certain things that can potentially bring embarrassment. Basically, his comments about the student athletes and the negative reaction to those comments from a lot of sources, both nationally and locally, is where I thought we needed to make the decision, close quote. Okay, he's describing his team. He's describing his team's lack of fight, lack of grit. Everything he said, we heard lots worse from Bobby Knight. I know it was a different era and all this, but I'm still at a loss. First of all, is any of it untrue? If they go to court, are they going to go prove this is untrue? Everything he's saying, I think the record speaks for itself. If I'm him, and it's a shame too, because he obviously loves the university, loves his job. If I'm him, I'm getting my money. If I'm an attorney, if I'm a sports attorney, I am begging him to let me handle this case. Normally, I wouldn't suggest or encourage litigation, but in this instance, I think it's warranted. This is an absolute joke. Shame on Kansas State. I mean, every coach should be that passionate. Did Nick Saban ever? I mean, Nick Saban, he said some pretty harsh things. I think the look is worse that they fired their coach for saying this than the things the coach actually said. But that's my 2 cents. Couple more items here before we take a break. We got James Fletcher III On3 on the other side. South Carolina. This was absolutely fantastic. South Carolina beat LSU on Saturday night in a primetime game. And we had Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News on last week. Primetime game, ABC, 8:30 slot. First time that's ever happened. Women's basketball. And South Carolina wins 79-72 at LSU. That was number 3 beating number 6. The game was fantastic. The game lived up to everything we thought it would be. We hoped it would be. Career win number 500 at South Carolina for Dawn Staley. But more importantly, from the Gamecocks' perspective, the 18th straight win over LSU. Kim Mulkey has yet to beat Dawn Staley as the head coach at LSU. She did it when she was at Baylor, but she's not done it yet at LSU while being a conference rival. And I'm using that term loosely because we're still trying to figure out, is it a rivalry? It's great entertainment. It's a festive atmosphere. The excitement for it, man, if every game could be that exciting, the anticipation, wow. But at some point, I think you actually need to win, don't you? I think you absolutely have to, at some point, get a victory. And here's the thing, though. 3 of the last 4 national championships have come from either South Carolina or LSU. Whew. But 18 in a row. And you know that's killing Kim Mulkey. You know it. And Tessa Johnson, who was absolutely lights out against LSU. And I think it's worth revisiting her stat line before I move forward. Tessa Johnson. This is her line against LSU. 37 minutes, 21 points, 8 of 13 from the field, including 4 of 5 3-pointers. I want to say all 4 of those came in the first half. 2 rebounds, an assist. I mean, she was unbelievable. Clutch shots whenever they needed clutch shots. There's actually a rap song out now, Who Can Guard Tessa, after the Kim Mulkey video during a halftime, screaming at her team, who can guard Tessa? Who can guard Tessa? And while they did slow her down in the second half, they didn't stop her. But is it a rivalry? It's a lot of fun. It's a heck of a good time. And I have to think all the people packed into that gym down in Baton Rouge, man, were just having the time of their life up until the game was actually over. And you could see once South Carolina wrapped it up, you could see people streaming out and making their way out of the facility. But is it a rivalry? I will contend that Texas, South Carolina right now is the premier rivalry in the SEC, but the more captivating maybe one, intriguing, entertaining is South Carolina LSU. And it speaks a lot about the state of women's basketball. I mean, we can even have this conversation. The game was everything that ABC/ESPN needed in order to validate that primetime spot. It was tough. It was gritty. It was high-level basketball. It had big personalities showing up. It was compelling theater, start to finish. And I have to wonder, when does it happen again? When does the network put women's basketball back on that stage? Are there 2 other programs that can occupy that stage and have as much juice before, during, and after the game? I'm wondering that. I mean, could Texas, South Carolina hold that? Is Vic Shaper, the coach of Texas, is he captivating enough for that? Or is this a one-off? Is this the only one that could do it? It's something that we'll have to explore in a later episode. But right now, let's get ready for our guest. James Fletcher III of On3 is going to come aboard, going to get his take on the latest AP Top 25, get his take on parity throughout college football, or basketball rather, and ask him that very important question. Can it be a rivalry if one team has won 18 in a row over the opponent? Well, that's James Fletcher III of On3 on the other side. Stick around.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the JP Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our Fanstream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream, fanstreamsports.com.
New AP Top 25 is out. There's a new number 1. And I've got this one big question, this one ginormous question. How does a team go from being number 1 in the country for 9 straight weeks only to lose twice within 1 week, and to do it in February? I'm baffled. We're going to ask our guest, it's James Fletcher III of On3. James, how does that happen? What happened last week? Well, okay, I guess the question is actually this. What is the statement that makes about college basketball in 2026?
I think it's a top-loaded group this year. I really do think it is, and I think that a big chunk of those teams are in the Big 12, and I think that's what it says more than anything, is that Arizona has faced all kinds of non-conference challenges, and even in conference play, they've gotten over the hump in a bunch of big games to this point in the season. But whatever it was, the way the schedule was formatted, this week was a big challenge. Everybody knew that going into Allen Fieldhouse was not going to be easy. You thought when Darren Peterson didn't play, maybe that did give Arizona the upper hand. Kansas still figured out a way to get that one done. And then again, against Texas Tech, there's just razor-thin margins when the teams are this good at the top of the sport and in the Big 12. And Arizona just got caught twice in a row. It's also, interestingly enough, not the first or even the second time we've seen a team that was undefeated coming into even the new year take 2 losses in 1 week, just from Monday through to Sunday. So this is something that's happening throughout college basketball. Really interesting phenomenon. And you're right. It's just really fascinating to follow and try to figure out what's causing it.
I've got a theory on it. I actually credit one of those things that people hate. The things, not just one thing, but many things that people hate. I credit the transfer portal. I credit NIL, revenue sharing. I credit it for doing all of this to create this wonderful age of parity. Am I barking up the right tree with that, or is there something else behind the scenes that's making the playing field a little bit more level?
For sure. The transfer portal, NIL has all played a role in the parity that we're seeing, and that's reflected in some of the top teams that you're seeing. It's not just Duke at the top every year, not just UNC and Kentucky up at the top of these boards that we see. You've got plenty of teams that have figured out ways to get in the mix. Michigan under Dusty May has quickly risen to the top. You've also got your Arizonas, Iowa States in the Big 12 that have made a lot of noise. UConn is there year in and year out, down year last year, but they're right back up in the mix this season. But I don't think that it's just spend money, acquire transfers, and win. That's not really the formula that we've seen. What we've seen, though, is that it's opened the door. You can win however you see fit, and as long as the results come with it, you're going to be lauded as one of the best coaches. We see that, of course, with Kelvin Sampson within the recent weeks, complaining about how much NIL Houston has. Maybe not complaining quite that strong, but at least making it clear that he does not have the budget, the money that some of these other programs have. And yet there they are, now number 2 in the country and receiving 1 vote for the number 1 spot in that AP poll.
You know, maybe it's not a really good comparison considering they've had a pretty rough week. But I talk about the Clemson Tigers. I don't think it's a coincidence that Brad Brownell has had the 4 best years, not only of his career, but arguably the best stretch of 4 years in Clemson basketball history since the transfer portal really sped up and became a thing. Agree or disagree?
I think that's definitely true. And Brad Brownell is somebody who's figured out how to use it, like I was saying, not just by spending the most money, not by going and getting all of the best players, the ones that are rated the highest. It's about filling needs. That's what the transfer portal has done to create parity more than anything else, is that a player who was stuck on the bench at a top 5 team can now go to the mid-major level or a smaller school, a school that's coming off of less success or has less established returning players in the high major division, and can plug in and fill a role and have the kind of success that's needed. And so I think that it creates a lot more variance year to year in the results of a certain program. We've seen it with the North Carolinas, Kentucky a couple of times year to year, the big highs, the big lows. We saw it with UConn last year. If you swing and miss, your team might just lack the chemistry, lack the cohesion that it needs. But if you can go out and identify, this is the exact type of player that we need, this is the kind of locker room fit that we need, if you can identify and then attack and execute in acquiring those players, like Brad Brownell has done year in and year out, you can have really, really good success without having to spend at the top of the sport, without having to kind of sell out the identity of your program like some of these coaches like to present when they're arguing against the portal and transfer at times.
Yeah, I agree. It's very well said. You know, we started off this conversation talking about the Big 12 and really talking about college basketball in general being so front-loaded. The Big 12 is a wonderful example of that. 5 teams in this week's top 25. 2 of the top 4 are out of the Big 12. That in and of itself is a pretty bold statement. How many number 1 seeds, though, end up coming out of that conference when we get ready to have the brackets for the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to follow. I think I just recently wrote about that in one of my bracketology updates, that the Big 12 is going to be worth tracking. I think they for sure are going to get 1 team on that 1 seed line. Yes, Arizona has dropped down the pecking order, but they're still in there. Houston in there as well. I'm pretty sure that barring a surprise run from deeper in the field, the winner of the Big 12 is likely to receive a 1 seed. And you've also got then in the mix the Houstons and Arizonas. Iowa State still kind of flirting with the opportunity to get into that conversation as well. So they've got a real chance at 2. I don't think they can get to 3 just because of the strength of the Big Ten. We know how strong Duke is, so it would take probably a couple of slip-ups to knock them out and actually get a 3rd team even in the conversation. And that's without talking about UConn, talking about the potential of Florida making another really nice run down the stretch of this season and winning the SEC. So those are some of the teams that are in the mix still for 1 seeds. And we've also got, of course, the opportunity for surprises.
You know, two quick thoughts on that. I'm glad you mentioned Duke because they're the 1 team I could see really making a surge to get to that number 1 overall seed come time for the NCAA tournament. Everything after that, though, is just going to be a dogfight. I'm glad you mentioned Florida. It's like you're reading my mind, reading my notes. the SEC, it's nowhere near what it was last year. Historic season last year, 14 teams go to the NCAA tournament. I've still got about 8 or 9 going this year, with Florida being at the head of that pack. Florida ranked number 12 this week in the recent AP Top 25 poll. What's your summation of the SEC? How would you describe somebody from another planet that visits Earth, say 40 years from now, and they want to know, hey, what was the Southeastern Conference like in the 2025-2026 basketball season?
I would say not last year's. It's not at all last year's conference, but it's a deep conference. That's what it has that some of these other conferences don't have. It's the depth from even 10 down to 14, I would say, in that conference. You're still playing teams that are top 75 in the net. You're still picking up quality wins for your resume, even when you're playing teams that are on the wrong side of the bubble, that aren't even necessarily in the NCAA tournament conversation. And that's where they have an edge over the Big Ten, where some of those bottom feeders in that conference are dipping below 150 in the net. Even the Big 12 with some of their teams outside of the top 100 when you get down to the bottom of that league. Now, that's not to say that they're a stronger conference than those two. I think that they are firmly the third best conference this season. But if you were going to make the case of what the SEC has over any of the others, it would be that depth in just that night in, night out. They don't have the top end that those other two conferences has, and you need that to be the best conference in college basketball, but they are a deep conference. And so I think that they're a little bit misunderstood. They're not what they are last year. They're not bad this year. They are something that we're not used to seeing from the SEC, and that is just a really solid conference that is going to be in the mix and present plenty of capable teams, maybe none, that are able to make a deep, deep NCAA tournament run.
James, just a couple more minutes, please. And this is confession time. Okay, I'm going to open up here, and I'm going to confess something to you. I am an AP Top 25 voter, and don't judge me. Hear me out before you judge me. When I put my ballot together week in and week out, I like to have continuity. I don't like to have extreme highs or lows. There are a few people on the panel who I just shake my head and go, wow. I had North Carolina number 9 last week, and I actually moved them up to 7 this week. And my thinking was that if that team, first of all, which beat Duke, can go out without Caleb Wilson and Vasar and beat Pitt, which I know Pitt isn't very good, but Pitt is still an ACC team at Pitt, and beat them by 15, could have beaten them by 30. I said, this is a good basketball team, especially if Caleb Wilson comes back. Are you going to yell at me? Are you going to lecture me? Are you going to applaud me? What is your reaction to what I just told you?
So I think it's really fascinating, first of all, to get that kind of insight from an AP voter, because I put out a weekly column on Sundays predicting what you guys are going to do. And so sometimes I get it right, sometimes I'm way off, and I'm always trying to figure out what is it that they were watching that I didn't see in this particular week. And for me, I did drop North Carolina down. I actually didn't drop them down as far as the AP poll did. And so I'm somewhere in the middle on this. I do think that, unfortunately, because of this sport, the way that it is structured, the timeline of that injury, I think you almost have to dock them for Caleb Wilson being out of that lineup. I just think that that's part of the game that we're playing. While we're not supposed to kind of look ahead and predict what they're going to do, ultimately, that's what a lot of people are taking into this. Do I think that they are a lesser team today than they were last week? And I think that that's undeniably true without Caleb Wilson. But as you said, to be able to still put together solid performances and compete in the ACC without a talent like Caleb Wilson, to in some ways show some improvement game over game 1 without him, and then that second game looked a lot better. I think that there is definitely a case to say, hey, let's hold up, let's evaluate them as they are without just assuming that they're worse because Caleb Wilson is out of the lineup.
Normally that would have been my way of thinking, but then they were without Vasar too against Pitt. And I went, that's option 1 and option 2. And they went out 1 by 15. And I know that Pitt is a dumpster fire. I know, but I can't penalize them for that.
To make it even more interesting there, everyone in that group lost. Like if you go the area of the rankings that you're talking about, the options were keep everyone where they were, or move everyone down and launch somebody up rankings about 7 or 8 spots for just a couple of average wins on the schedule. So I understand that it was a very tough challenge there to figure out where to stack everyone.
I know you're imagining me on Sunday night staring off into the moonlight, and I've got some scotch or something, and I'm rubbing right here, and I'm going, oh, what am I going to do? It is actually pretty stressful because we get some nasty messages.
Yes, I'm sure.
Two more items here real quick, then I'll let you go. Miami of Ohio sitting at number 22, 25-0, leading the nation at 92.6 points a game. What the heck are we to think of Miami of Ohio? Are we just supposed to wait and see how they do in the NCAA tournament to actually validate what they are or aren't, or should we be ranking them higher right now?
I think you're spot on about where we are. Everyone's really respecting that they're still undefeated because if you look at the metrics, they're up into the top 25 in strength of record, in some of those wins above the bubble type of conversations, because they haven't taken any losses. Sure, the wins they have aren't impressive, but when you have no losses to stack them up against, you're going to rank pretty high up in that conversation. And I think for me, it was surviving a couple of challenges as we flipped from January to February that kind of got me interested. At first it was, okay, how long will this last? Now it's, can they really do this? Can they go undefeated up until the NCAA tournament? And in turn, what does that do for their seeding? Do they end up with a more favorable matchup where now they can really go prove themselves, get a maybe, I don't know if it would be an even matchup, but based off of the rankings, it sure would be if they were able to get into one of those 6-11 games. And then from there, what does that mean for them? Can they make a run? Can they prove that this undefeated record really does mean something? They're fascinating to watch. And now they've started to kind of create separation in a couple of these recent games. So worth monitoring. Can they be the Cinderella team this year?
Yeah, I'd feel terrible if they end up getting a 5 and they get into that dreaded 12-5, where we see upsets every year and be like, man, they went all the way through that and then they got the dreaded 12-5 game. My heart would go out to them. My last topic, and we're going to pivot for a moment. I just want your reaction to this. By the way, you're fantastic. Ball. Can you have a rivalry when a team has won 18 straight over you? And I'm talking about South Carolina and LSU women's basketball.
Man, that's a tough one, and I think that you can. I'm gonna stick with you can, because I think that so much of rivalries is between the fan bases. It's what they think of each other. It's how they're talking about each other online, in the grocery stores, out at different events. What do you think when you see someone wearing that other team's colors? Does it invoke something in you? Do you feel the need to shout your team's motto out at them? And I think that we've still got that to a degree in that women's basketball rivalry because of who the coaches are, because of the amount of big time games that they have played in, even though they've been one-sided. And I guess my only defense for that would be that even in some of the biggest college football rivalries that we've seen them go extended stretches, maybe not 18 games. That is, that's pretty extreme. But we've seen it go years at a time where one team dominates and then suddenly it flips. And now it's the other fan base's team and they relish it almost more because it's been so long since they've been able to sit there and hold that over the rival fans. So I think that it can be a rivalry, but can it be one of the best rivalries? That's for other people to decide who are in it or not.
It's a hell of a lot of fun, no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I think also brings it. There's a fun element to each of those games, and so you never leave it going, well, what was that about? Was it really what it was cracked up to be? It usually ends up being as exciting as you thought it was going to.
There's a new rap song out called "Who Can Guard Tessa." I kid you not. I'll kid you not. I'll send you a link to it. James, absolute blast, man. What are you working on? We know you have your preview of what you think the top 25 will look like on Sunday. What else have you got in the hopper? What do you normally have throughout the week?
Yeah, a lot of bracketology content coming up down the next month or so here. Going to be putting out bracketology on Thursday and Sundays. We got Bubble Watch on Wednesdays. And then also a couple of just different analytic features where you can kind of get an idea who, according to the numbers that we watch and that us as bracketologists are paying attention to rank these teams, who stacks up in what categories and how does it compare sometimes to the teams that have won it all in the past. So you think your team is a national championship contender? I can tell you based on the past whether they meet those criteria.
I love it. I did not realize you did all that. God bless your heart. When do you sleep? In April?
Yeah, basically.
James, you're the man, brother. I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. I really appreciate your time and your insight, man. We're going to keep you on speed dial.
Yeah, appreciate it. Anytime you need me, I'm here.
All right, that's James Fletcher III of On3. To close up this episode, I want to thank James for coming aboard. And he's right. We could have really just kept everybody in place at the top of the AP top 25, and it wouldn't have looked awful. I mean, I've said for weeks that any of the top 7, you could put them in number 1 and you would get pushback, but not a crazy amount of pushback. It's true. And it might be even further down now. It might be around 10 or 11 before you start getting resistance. But I love it. And I hope it carries over to the NCAA tournament and the conference tournaments. Wonderful week of basketball ahead of us. So many big games ahead of us. I'm looking right now. Michigan's at Purdue Tuesday, and then they've got Duke in D.C. on Saturday. So we're going to monitor that. We're going to monitor the continuing fluid situation, the rise of Florida and the SEC, and see what else is happening in a women's game. But until then, I want to thank James Fletcher III of On3 Sports for coming aboard. As far as the podcast, do what you do for podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever. Do it for this one. Leave a comment or hit me up directly on Twitter/X at Scott H Sports. Let me know what's on your mind. Questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, whatever. If there's a topic you want to hear discussed, let me know. If there's a guest you want me to bring on, I'll try my best to facilitate it. But otherwise, you got a lot of ball to watch. I can't wait for the tournament, but I'm not wishing my life away. There's a lot of good games between now and March. Let's enjoy them. Until next time.